Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. First, I would like to thank Julie Carson and Jean McAvoy from the Immokalee IFAS Center for their help and cooperation. If you need CEU, go to the chat box, and send an email to Jean. Today's program offers 1 CEU for pesticide license renewal and 1 CEU for certified crop advisors. Our guest speaker is Dr. Ozgur Batuman. He is a plant pathologist and assistant professor with IFAS, Southwest Florida Research and Education Center in Immokalee. The topic of his presentation is counting and management of HLB, Phytophthora, and Leprosis. As you know, we have been struggling with citrus greening, or HLB, since 2005. HLB has been the most devastating citrus disease. It causes root loss, defoliation, dieback, premature fruit drop, low yield, low soluble solids, and other problems. We don't have the silver bullet for the bacterial disease, but we have several tools in the toolbox that may reduce its negative effect. Concerning Phytophthora fungal disease, its management is becoming complicated and difficult during the HLB era. It is well known that HLB accelerates Phytophthora infection and fibrous root damage. Citrus leprosis is a viral disease that is currently found in Mexico. It can get to the US anytime. It is transmitted by false spider mites, also known as flat mites. These spider mites are currently found in Florida. The process causes lesions on leaves, fruit, and twigs. It also causes leaf drop, fruit drop, and twig dieback. Besides HLB, our growers should keep monitoring other pathogens that can attack already HLB-weakened trees. Phytophthora, HLB, and Leprosis each can substantially reduce productivity of citrus trees. But when they are co-infecting, they will kill citrus trees. Dr. Batuman, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mongi. Thank you for, first of all, putting this seminar series and inviting me to talk. I really appreciate all you do, Mongi. And then thank you for the introduction. So to all, Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us this morning to listen what I have to add on HLB, Phytophthora, and Leprosis diseases control here in Florida citrus. So thank you for joining. As Mongi mentioned, I'm a plant pathologist and located here in Southwest Florida Research and Education Center in Immokalee. I will say this now and later many times that I'm here to work and help, work with you and help any way that I can. So today topic, as Mongi alluded, talking about several citrus diseases. Of course, HLB is the elephant in the room, so it is the source of all the problems that we have in our citrus growth, in citrus industry in general, because of the HLB. Of course, in the beginning, I thought I will be talking about all these topics that I listed here, but then I quickly realized that I don't have time for that, and you are all very well familiar with the HLB, so I'm just going to give small reminders about what is HLB and then talk about its control strategies, if there is any. So as you all know, HLB is, as Mongi mentioned as well, is a bacterial disease that is phloem limited and is very difficult to control because of its characteristic biology that is very problematic for our scientists to even study because it's not cultured. So it's a fastidious bacterium that transmitted mainly with this very efficient insect vector called Asian citrus psyllids. And they are all very familiar how effective vectors are Asian citrus psyllids or ACPs that I will refer. Regardless, when your trees are infected, it's one of the main characteristic symptoms of HLB, this asymptomatic, symmetric modeling symptoms on leaves, where you can see that if you divide the leaf in half, one part has different pattern the other has. So that is the asymmetric pattern and very characteristic to HLB. And of course, the main damage is fruit drop and economic loss, of course, as we all suffering from this disease. But nevertheless, there are things that our farmers are doing, and they are very resilient. And as a matter of fact, some are very successful, continuing to produce high quality fruit and continue their business. So how we can control this HLB? We all hearing that HLB since 2005, and here we are in 2020. There is almost literally nothing that really helping any growers, particular anything that is helping growers to combat or to kill the HLB bacterium. But just let me introduce you some of the pathological background that applies not only HLB for all other most diseases that we are familiar with, especially with the vector transmitted disease such as HLB. The main control strategies usually are limited to reducing the vector population, in this case ACP, reducing the inoculum sources, which are infected trees, removing and destroying the infected trees, and then protecting next generation of trees from the insects and the disease itself. Of course, as you can see, I highlighted some of the bullet points in red font that indicates that these are the strategies that has failed or provided limited effect on HLB control. Of course, for instance, visual identification, it is very easy for most of us to see what plant is infected with HLB, but removal is difficult consequences, because when we realized that HLB was spreading here, 95% of the trees already infected with HLB. So it was extremely difficult for our industry to follow this guidelines. However, I just wanted to mention about some of the HLB disease control strategies that have been tried and being tried here in Florida. Some has partial effect, of course. As I mentioned, remove and destroy infected trees. It's not feasible. Quarantine program strictly used here in Florida with limited success. Of course, we tried many chemical, spray program or chemotherapy in a broad sense, and including nutritional treatment, and these were partially effective controlling some of the symptoms of the disease. Also, thermotherapy was tried, and it was partially effective. And of course, bactericide, antimicrobials were tried, and with the limited effect on HLB control, and needless to say, many other chemical control strategies that failed. And recently, of course, we are all familiar or hearing a lot about the peptides and CRISPR-Cas gene editing technology RNA interference technology or transgenic approach. But however, these are still on the research or stage, and there is nothing in hand that our growers can use these days in their toolbox to control the HLB. But if you notice the bottom of this list, you will see that none of the strategies that listed for ACP control is highlighted in red. It means they are all effective. So using chemical and biological control is still effectively controlling ACP population. Using reflective mulch or kaolin clay spray is shown to be effective in many circumstances for ACP control. And these days you are hearing a lot about the individual protective covers or cups, citrus under protective screens production. Of course, it's not feasible for juice industry here in Florida, but for our fresh food industry, cups definitely is a viable strategy to prevent HLB infection. But however, individual protective cover IPCs are now mainly used and is proven to be very effective, excluding the ACPs, colonizing the new plantings and preventing the disease infection. Of course, we are all listened very carefully in the beginning of the epidemics that we got rid of the other potential hosts like Muraya. And again, the ACP control strategies are still working, and unfortunately, still there is no one single effective strategies to control HLB. Of course, it doesn't mean that we give up. Many scientists, including my colleagues here in University of Florida, still continuing to come up with new ideas. And some of them I would like to briefly, mention here so that we know that we have not given up on HLB control. As you can see, we've been working into NIFA awarded project on bringing the cutting edge technology like gene editing and RNAi to see if we can, somehow control HLB in our citrus groves here in Florida. Another one is more recently was awarded by NIFA in collaboration with the CRDF and Bayer, where I am participating in screening of various chemicals, not necessarily systemic, but the synthetic, but also antimicrobial or other chemicals in finding the solution for A, prevention the HLB infection, and B, maybe curing even the HLB infection here in citrus. Of course, today's time is not allowing me to go in details to tell you, but I can assure you, maybe you can notice some of the results that I put it here. Some really chemicals are showing very promising results, yet this has to be repeated and shown in the field settings, not in greenhouse setting, to see if they are going to hold their promise. But I can tell you that many strategies are on the development, and hopefully soon we will be able to hear about their effectiveness in different seminars. So another strategy that we embark on to as you can imagine, that everybody is thinking and hearing that trunk injection of especially bacteria is effective curing the HLB symptoms. So we also started a project that its goal was producing this automatic trunk injection, or as we say, automated delivery system, where we are still working on it. But unfortunately, just because of the COVID pandemic associated restrictions and delays in the manufacturing of the many engineering compounds, we are a little bit in delay. But I can tell you that this trunk injection technology, if it works, it has a promise for our growers to widely use in their growth. And I can just show you a little piece of video showing how we are, thinking that this automatic delivery system would work. So as you can see in this video, we created a robotic hand that it was mounted on ATV here, small ATV. And it's going and grabbing the, citrus trunk. And as it punctures, injects chemicals into the vasculature of the citrus. So with this technology, we are hoping that we will be able to target the phloem tissue of the citrus where the bacteria is growing and living, and we will be able to deliver enough chemicals to control this pathogen in near future. But again, we are still in the process of developing and improving this technique, and it's not ready for our growers, unfortunately. So the latest this year, of course, you all heard about the peptides coming from the Australian finger limes, for instance, which is making Australian finger limes tolerant or resistant to HLB in some instances. And this peptide, the specific peptides in this plant shown to play a key role in controlling HLB. So this new NIFA project idea was, can we transfer that peptide? Peptides are the small pieces of proteins that every plant has, more or less similar things. But apparently in this in the Australian finger lime plant this peptide has unique features that interact with HLB and prevents its infection. So our main idea here, or my main role in this project, is whether using this key lime plants and graft on already infected HLB plants, can we transfer this peptide so that can cure the HLB infection in already infected plants. And if this holds true, it has a significant, substantial, potential to cure our already infected citrus plants, citrus trees in our grow. But again, this is just in the beginning of its journey. So we have lots to learn from this idea, whether it's going to help us or not in near future. So far, so then you will ask, how do we, control HLB? And of course, as you are all doing and aware of that, there is no, as Mongi also mentioned, that there is no silver bullet. So our best option is integrated pest management strategies, a strategy that you are already using since the beginning of the HLB pandemic here, where you are using multiple and different cultural and chemical control strategies and combining them to control the HLB itself in your grow. So again, IPM is your best option, since there is still no effective single cure for HLB. And you can maintain your production if you monitor for all other pests and diseases. And not only monitor, but act on it. And what I mean here is not only HLB, but you may have a hamlin, for instance, that's suffering always from canker every year. And if you are not taking care of it, and canker and HLB will be devastating disease for you. In other example, I can give you, if you have Phytophthora, historically Phytophthora problematic areas in your grow, and if you are not taking care of it, HLB plus Phytophthora, and you will see soon in other part of my presentation, it can be deadly for you. So that's why you have to take care of the other stress factors, so that citrus, which is, by the way, knows how to deal with HLB in certain levels. So please do not give up for other diseases or pests. Go out and take care of other stress factors so that your citrus plants continue to be productive. And again, reduce inoculum sources for not only HLB. In this case, reduction of inoculum sources in your grow is getting rid of unproductive trees which are infected in HLB or with other diseases. So getting rid of it at substantially decreasing the amount of inoculum present and attacks your new resets or new plantings in your growth. So please remove those and start with the clean research and take care of this clean research as you are continuing to reduce psyllid population. And again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to reduce the psyllid population. First of all, you have very effective control strategy, and you know how to do this. So if you are going to spend any money this year to protect your citrus trees, please put it on most of that money for psyllid control, okay? Because it's the best option that you have. And of course, the remaining part of your maintenance money should go nutrition and irrigation practices. That is working and helping your citrus trees. So again, there is no single silver bullet for controlling HLB. We know many things about HLB, but we still have so many questions about it, including nutrition that I just mentioned that most of our growers are effectively using in a way that it's already like a spoon feeding manner. And these days we are hearing that gibberellic acid is effectively controlling some of the symptoms of HLB, but still we have many questions about it. And as we are doing more research, many scientists that are working on this, and hopefully soon we will have better answers in some of the questions that I listed here. But in the meantime, I can only, remind you to stick with the integrated pest management to control the ACP and ease the HLB-associated symptoms in your grow by taking care of other pathogens and pests and paying attention to your nutrition and irrigation strategies. Well, next subject in my list is Phytophthora. Of course, Phytophthora is not a new disease, and you are all familiar. Most of you are familiar. And the Phytophthora alone can be a devastating disease for citrus. And needless to say, all our citrus are infected with HLB. Phytophthora on top of it, it's a deadly combination, I would say. That's why I would like to remind you about the disease caused by Phytophthora and how you can use some of the cultural control and management strategies to reduce the Phytophthora associated problems in your grow. And of course, some of the key aspects of the disease interaction that I just mentioned in the case of HLB plus other diseases, how they interact and renders your strategies to control very familiar diseases that you've been controlling. Let's remember what is Phytophthora. First of all, Phytophthora is causing a couple of diseases. It's called foot rot of the trunk and limbs, and root rot, where they are affecting mainly the roots, and the brown rot, where it infects and cause a substantial damage to your already harvestable fruits. And Phytophthora is not an easy disease. It is really economically important disease that is causing 63% of the economic reduction, or 20 million every year. And these numbers are, please pay attention, before the HLB era. So Phytophthora is still here. And on top of HLB, it can be devastating disease that you should definitely take it seriously and control. And of course, in further slides, I will tell you that you have many tools to control of the Phytophthora. But let me give you a little background about the Phytophthora. Phytophthora is formerly thought to be a fungus, but now it's between fungus and animals kind of living creature, and we call it the water moths or mycetes. So they are more close to the animals than the fungus. However, they act like the fungal diseases. So they are soil-borne pathogens. And in Florida, we used to have formerly known as Phytophthora parasitica, but now is known as Phytophthora nicotiani. And another species that we have in Florida is Palmivora. They are very closely related species, but they have some different biological aspects that I'm not going to get into it. For instance, parasitica, or today, as we name it, nicotiani, commonly cause the fruit rot and root rot, whereas Palmivora is causing more brown rot of the fruit. So these pathogens are, as I said, water moles, and the name suggests they love watering. So there are two things that drives this disease: excessive water in your soil and propagules that is living in your soil, waiting the perfect wet and dry cycles that is happening very often in our citrus production system. So this Phytophthora has, nonetheless, spores that they know how to swim. And as you know, the roots of the citrus exudates and key volatiles and other elements that Phytophthora can sense, hence they can swim towards A, wounded roots, and B, newly growing roots. So these are two unique situation where Phytophthora gets ready to attack and infect your plants. Of course, as I said, it's a soil-borne pathogen, and they know how to swim towards the roots. So the most important part in the Phytophthora management is protecting your growing roots. And it's not only roots, the other parts of the plants can be infected with Phytophthora, very effective pathogen. And for instance, is, as you can see here, illustrated very nicely, the swimming zoospores can infect the fallen fruits and produce more spore, and with the rain or irrigation splash can jump onto the fruits that is in your skirts and the lower side of the canopy, and more spores that produce on those fruits can also splash towards the upper part of the plant. And in practically, they can inoculate virtually every fruit, especially Palmivora species that can infect most of the fruits. So it is very important that you protect your roots and fruits and other, of course, citrus tissues from this pathogen. Some of the symptoms and the damage that they cause, I just wanted to bring up to visually here. And you are familiar that it's caused the fruit rot and crown rot, and basically kills the bark. Bark is the most active vasculature area where the xylem that transports water and the phloem that transports the sugars and carbohydrates in the plant. So if they are damaged, the entire system is damaged, and in severe cases, it can girdle the tree and cuts off this pipes, as you will, that conducts the water and assimilates in the plants. And the rootstocks that we have in Florida, it's mainly one of the strategic control strategies that our growers successfully use. So there are some rootstocks are really tolerant, or somehow more than tolerant to Phytophthora. So for that, please, if you are planting new trees, go to the Florida Citrus Production Guide, and there is very nice, extensive list of rootstocks that are tolerant to Phytophthora that you can pick, and you can plan actually the new plants that you are going to be planting. This is very critical control strategies, especially if your grow has Phytophthora inoculum and causing a problem to your existing trees. And again, it can attack the growing or wounded tissue. So does avoid wounding, especially nearby the soil level, because the soil is the source of this Phytophthora, and with the irrigation water or the rain, they can splash, get onto the wood and cause damage. And that's why actually our nurseries are using this information, and they are crafting their science on the rootstocks about 6 inches from the soil level. So the nurseries are doing a great job protecting our science from this pathogen. So as I mentioned, it's a Phytophthora. It impairs the water and nutrient uptakes. And when it's very severe, it goes all the way deep to the phloem tissues where the sugars are allocated and moved, and roots especially that is damaged where the sugars are stored as a starch, and when it's needed is used. So if you don't have a storage, well-maintained storage in the plant, when plant is growing, it will suffer from this lack of sugars. So please, pay attention to your root health. And if virulent plantings, the disease, the new reset has no, protection from this, and it can really severely stunt your trees until it's too late to save that newly planted trees. So Phytophthora root rot is mainly a problem in where the water table is high and excessive water you may have in extended time in your grove. So it's good drainage and irrigation practices is the key for taking care of the Phytophthora, the most critical a requirement to make a cause of disease. So if you are good in the drainage and if you are paying attention to irrigation, I think you will be successful controlling root rot in your plant. And of course, as I mentioned, nurseries are doing a great job, but nevertheless, sometimes we don't pay attention, and some infected new seedlings can come from nurseries. So please pay attention to nursery recess that you are bringing. Make sure that they have no symptoms of Phytophthora before planting and introducing that inoculum to your plant, the grow. And of course, after planting, or as usual, monitor disease pressure. And this is done by probable counts in soil. And this is actually a service that is provided by one of the companies here in Syngenta. So you can actually contact them and ask them their services to see if really you have a high inoculum, Phytophthora inoculum, or propagule counts in your soil. So that is actually the main indication for you to make a decision if you have Phytophthora disease in high inoculum level that can hurt you or not. So, and of course, based on the history of the Phytophthora in your grove, again, you have to pay attention to growing roots, right? And as I mentioned before, there is very nice guide that is prepared by many scientists and expert in this subject in the Florida Citrus Production and Management Guide. So you can visit, it's free for all our growers. So you can see how in details Phytophthora can be controlled. And again, Phytophthora count in your soil is a key indication whether if you are herding population of Phytophthora. And this is a propagule count between 10 to 20. It's actually already recommends grower to take action, active action to target the Phytophthora in your growth. There are many chemicals that you are familiar that can purchase and use, and they are effective. So please continue to use these chemicals in rotation, of course, because as I mentioned, these fungus-like organism also can have develop resistant to frequently used chemicals. So please. And again, the root flushes that you have to protect. And root flushes is actually the flushes that you don't see and ignore most of the time, but just remember, root flushes follow the spring canopy and the shoot flushes. And they are most fragile for Phytophthora infection. And another disease that caused by the Phytophthora is, of course, brown rot. This is especially a damaging disease for early varieties like Hamlin and pineapple, if you have it. And unfortunately, it caused this light brown leathery decay. And in humid condition, it can also produce this, fungal growth on the surface with very pungent, sharp, distincting smell. So you will know that you have brown root rot. And sometimes you don't see this, but the infection can also continue to spread after the post-harvest. So it is very common here in Florida. Again, dropped fruits are the main driving force for this inoculum and the infection in your grow. So there are a number of things that you can do actually, but unfortunately one of them is really not maybe feasible. So most of our growers, because of the HLB causing excessive fruit drop, that avoiding fruit under the tree to reduce inoculum, it's something that is very challenging, but if you can, that will definitely help you to reduce the inoculum. One of the other strategy that you can use, and I really recommend that, raising the tree skirts to increase the aeration and air movement. So drying the under the canopy can definitely help and avoid this problem. And of course, you can apply preventive sprays like phosphites or copper. These are effective chemicals that you can spray before the symptoms occurs, not after. Unfortunately, these are all preventive, so you have to have it before the problem starts in your grow. And timing the application, as I was just talking about, it is preventive. So it's just because of as the rainy season starts, you have to start thinking of how to protect your fruits from water-loving and swimming Phytophthora. Okay. One of the data that I follow every year and get from the Syngenta crop protection is the number of the samples they are processing from our Florida citrus growers and the amount of propagule that they are detecting in those plants. And as you can see in the left side of the slides, this figure graph indicates that there is an increasing trend of propagule accumulation in our soils. And as you are all familiar, HLB is impacting your root, amount of root, and the health of the root. It's no surprising that the root mass that we are producing in our soil, it's reducing as well. So it's mean you have less roots and more pathogen that are attacking. So you have to definitely take care of the Phytophthora by thinking of this, and you should be actively aiming to control Phytophthora because of this simple reasons that I'm just reminding you. And this is happening. So please use the service that provided by your industry partner and see how much inoculum you have in your grow and take action. Because again, HLB is already hurting you and you don't want any other pathogens to hurt you. Okay, so here is the last year data, just to point out that Nicotiana that is causing foot rot and root rot mainly, somehow propagule counts reduced last year. But look at the Palmivora. Palmivora is the species that causes especially the brown rot. And I'm getting the phone call during the Hamlin or just before Hamlins are harvested. I'm losing fruit like anything I've seen before. And please remember, HLB is main cause of the fruit drop, But if you have HLB and you are allowing other pathogen like brown rot or Diplodia, Diplodia is a harmless pathogen. It's like a secondary pathogen most of the case, but HLB-weakened foods are perfect, substance for Diplodia to cause damage as well. So again, look at the number of the palmivora that is detected, indicating that there is an increasing trend on a population buildup in our citrus groves. So please pay attention to the Phytophthora control. The interesting thing that is bothering me actually as I'm speaking, I'm blushing as well. As I mentioned, the propagule count that is telling our growers between 10 to 20 considered to be hurting level, and you should take action. But these were established, these were the threshold that established before the HLB. So with the HLB, I'm definitely worried that this 10 to 20 propagule counts might be already too late. Of course, I'm not telling you to go ahead and take care of your plants, even though you have almost no propagule counts. So what I'm saying is we have to revisit this threshold that we set 30 years ago to come up with maybe a better strategy to control Phytophthora, or at least initiate Phytophthora control based on the propagule counts. Because as you can see here, especially in the disease load in the state, when you compare the regions, production regions in Florida, it is very clear that Salt Ridge and Flatwoods and Southwest Florida is really, really up there, and the propagule counts are continuously increasing every year. So another problem that is caused by HLB is rendering our strategies or working effective strategies or management tools continue to work. For instance, in Phytophthora, as I mentioned, you know how to take care of Phytophthora, and we do have tools, chemicals to control Phytophthora. However, as you all know, HLB is just disturb entire citrus tree behavior, the growth pattern, including the cycle of the root and the shoot flush. So nothing is cyclic anymore, so it can happen anytime. So, and as I mentioned, Phytophthora is attacking the root flushes. So it is really, really, some of the management strategies that we had is not really applicable sometimes just because of the HLB. So please pay attention. That is, HLB is causing most of your problems, and also rendering the control of other diseases. So you have to adapt. For instance, your tree with the impacted HLB impacted root system is not effectively taking your fertilizer that you are giving, not taking the irrigation water that you are giving. That's why you are spoon feeding and you are stretching out your irrigation. So maybe Phytophthora management that has to be also adopted in this way, because you have less root and uncyclic the root flushes that you have to somehow protect them. The improving the fungicide timing and the number of application maybe, or the amount of application that we are putting may be readjusted so that can continue to be effective controlling your Phytophthora. Let me remind you that something that you all know it actually, but sometimes we forgot. The graph is simply summarizing how propagules or Phytophthora during the year or during the season increasing in our soils, as it's demonstrated here, depicted here with the red line. And as you can see that also you are aware that after the shoot flushes, there's root flushes. So this used to be a very cyclic, as you can see, shoot flushes, root flushes, shoot flushes, but this cycle is not more there. It's all disrupted. So that's why maybe now you have to actively think and decide which root cycles or the main root cycles you think that you can protect because you have means of financial allocations and labor that you can put. So you can definitely not protect all the roots that you are having it. So you have to make informed and active decision which root to protect. So this is the key message that I would like to pass it across to you guys. It's not like management strategies that you have not working anymore. It's just the timing and the way that we are using it is not perfect anymore, and it's not effective anymore. So you have to have some changes to protect your root system. Okay, so remember, after every shoot that you see, shoots that you see on the trees will follow with the root flushes. So if you have main root flushes, for instance, in the spring, one of the target, but if it's very dry, so maybe you may, think that, okay, I will keep my, chemicals for a more wet and, rainy season to protect my roots. So this is legitimate thinking and strategizing your control strategies, because definitely you cannot just keep control all the roots that you are having. And we all know that roots that the mainly impacted by HLB, and we don't want Phytophthora to further damage the already existing and half functioning roots. So just to sum up, because I don't have a lot of time, that I have to talk about another very important subject. So remember to look at your propagule counts, and especially in places where Phytophthora historically is hurting you, please don't underestimate. Make active control for the Phytophthora, especially these days when you are suffering from HLB. Management tools are less effective and because of the HLB, not because they are not working anymore, but just because the way that we are using it not effective. So please remember that. So and one thing that we all forget, if we are not sick or we are not feeling good enough, we don't go to doctor. We think that we are okay. But so remember, some of this management tools are preventive, and actually most of them are preventive. So when you are seeing the disease, it's already too late. Damage is there. So it will not help you to save your plants in that season or your fruits. So please think and strategize your combat strategy for not only HLB, but all other diseases that can hurt you. So one of the diseases that I listed that you should be aware of is this old disease that we used to have in Florida called citrus leprosis disease. But please pay attention, this disease, we don't have it in Florida. So there is nothing that you should be aware. To thank God that we don't have this disease. But what is happening in other citrus production areas where this disease occurring and spreading is just make me uncomfortable. So I thought I should bring this subject and kind of make you familiar with this disease. So while you are scouting your growth, you may pay attention to some of the disease symptoms, some of the things that I will tell you today. So hopefully you will not find it, and we will never have it. But as a well-trained virologist, unfortunately, there is one fact, that is vector-transmitted viruses. It always arrives in places where vector is present, and Florida has the vector of this disease. But before going to these details and confuse you, let me show you some of the symptoms and what to pay attention. Again, we don't have this disease, so there is nothing to be alert yet. As I mentioned, this is an old disease. Actually, it's first reported from Florida in 1860s. But since 68, because of the freezes back then and extensive use of sulfur to control mites in our citrus grove, somehow got rid of this disease. And since 70s, we haven't found this leprosis here. So well, we don't have it in Florida, but this is in the southern and now in Central America countries where citrus production is really, really considered one of the most important emerging citrus disease. And as I mentioned, it's a vector transmitted. Where the vector is, has usually end up showing up. So we have to be vigilant and very, very careful not to bring this disease. And if it arrives, we have to take action. So where is this disease occurring? So as I mentioned, it started in South America. Many countries are listed here. Jump to the Central America countries that I listed here, including all Caribbean islands. So, and most recently arrived to Mexico, and this disease already in Hawaii as well. So it is an approaching threat to Florida citrus. So we need to be on the lookout. Definitely we need to be on the lookout. So what is this leprosis disease? It's caused by the virus. And it is actually, leprosis virus is a non-systemic viral disease. What does that mean is cannot move from infected cells to many other cells. So it's a good thing, actually. But whereas infected cause these chlorotic lesions that I'm going to show you more on citrus leaves, on fruits, twigs, and branches. And this is not only one single virus species. There are a number of different viruses. And actually every year, unfortunately, we are finding more viruses that recently we have up to 12 viruses causing leprosis disease in other countries. And some of them are because of the type of the symptoms or because where they are infecting in the cell, it's called, maybe you will hear cytoplasmic or nuclear leprosis, but this is not important for the management purposes because the management will be applied to both type of virus diseases. And again, viruses causing this leprosis disease, mainly causing these chlorotic lesions, rendering the fruit quality and causing the fruit drop. So actually, of course, we have to be worried about this disease arriving in Florida. And again, this is vectored with the insects, vectored, or actually it's not insects, it's the Brevipalpis mites. There are mites, and we do have it in Florida. This Brevipalpis mites effectively transmit this virus, and they can carry the virus for the life of the lifetime of their life. This mites, also known as the flat mites or false spider mites, and if you have it, please pay attention. That is not going out of control in your grow because they are very effective transmitting this disease. And what citrus types are infected? As you can see, there is a long list of the citrus, but the key citrus that we are growing here are listed here, unfortunately. Sweet oranges and mandarins especially are very susceptible for this disease. It can really hurt them. Leprosis can be a serious threat. It's not only infecting citrus, but other ornamental plants as well. As a matter of fact, these days, every time a new virus causing leprosis-like disease in ornamental plants, including in Florida. So hibiscus, one of them, and the Fanbachia is another one. So if you have these ornamentals in your perimeter of your grow, maybe it's a good idea to get rid of this, just in case, okay? Again, we don't want to introduce this to Florida, but if it arrives, we have to be very diligent and eradicate this virus immediately. So let's talk about the disease and the symptoms. So this disease, as I mentioned, mainly transmitted with this brevipalpis flat mites or false spider mites. It's not seed transmitted, or it's not transmitted by touching from plant to plant, or even with the grafting, it's not very effectively transmitted. So it's the main transmission caused by this vector. So vector is the main driving force of this disease. And false spider mites love all citrus, many citrus. So you are not immune to this mites, okay? Again, the flat mites are very effective, and it exists in major production states in the United States, not only in Florida. That's why it is very, very important that we do not bring any propagation material, any trees from other states or from other countries, okay? And this mites, as I said, we have it, very effective. It doesn't matter if it's a larvae, nymph, or adult, can pick up the virus and transmit for their lifetime. So we do not want brevipalpis to go out of control in our citrus grows. Symptoms include, as I mentioned, localized lesions on leaves, fruits, and stems. Lowers the fruit quality, although it's not impact the internal quality of the fruit. So if you are juicing, you can still harvest and use that fruit, but unfortunately cause extensive leaf and fruit drop. It decreases the foliar area and because it infects the twigs and branches, cause the branch death. And in some severe cases, if it's untreated for a number of years, the tree can die. And this disease, I just put one of the pictures here, was called scaly bark. Those that are remembering this, because of the damage produced on the bark, as you can see, it looks scaling off the bark tissues. So on the leaves and on the fruits, it caused this very characteristic, sometimes large chlorotic and sometimes concentric rings as well. But most importantly, you will be able to sometimes see with magnifying glasses is much easier to see that actually where the mite is fed. So again, this is not systemically moving virus. So it's mean where mite is feeding is introducing the virus, and virus is just staying there. That's why causing this chlorotic damage. And you can see in both sides of the leaves, this large chlorotic areas. And these chlorotic areas, as the leaf expands, it expands and becomes more of necrotic in the middle, and sometimes even gives this gummosis type of necrotic tissues. So it's really very characteristic symptom of leprosis, and I think it's very easily can be seen by eye. So watch out these symptoms when you are spotting your grow, and make sure that you do not have any of this leprosis-like symptoms. So here is one more picture showing very characteristic leprosis symptoms on the leaves, very large chlorotic areas. And as I said, there's other viruses very closely related to this and cause similar symptoms with some nuances. For instance, here, one type, again, this is leprosis virus, another type of leprosis virus that causing little smaller and more necrotic lesions than the chlorotic lesions on the leaves. Nevertheless, it will look like the similar to each other. So just pay attention this large unnecessary necrotic or chlorotic spots on your leaves, on your twigs. As you can see here, starts with the brown to reddish small spots and becomes larger as the bark develops and sloughs off, and it looks scaly bark like in this advanced stage. So I think this is something that you can definitely easily distinguish and and pay attention to it. And again, early stages on the twigs, as you can see, small necrotic lesions and start gummosis. And later on, this will expand and become scaly bark. Okay, on the fruits, similar to on the leaves, there will be some chlorotic rings like that in the early stages, and then this chlorotic, the center of this chlorotic, where the mite was feeding becomes dead tissue, and it's called necrotic lesion. And as you can see here, chlorotic becomes necrotic spots on the fruits. And if it's this chlorotic lesion occurs very early stage of the fruit development, later on it can cause this ugly appearance of the fruit with extensive, sunken and necrotic spots on the fruit. Some more symptoms: chlorotic and necrotic spots on the fruits. It is really something that you can easily see if you look carefully, and you will be able to, pay attention to that. And again, just necrotic sunken centers on the fruit. Okay, very characteristic. However, it can be easily confused with canker. That's my fear, actually, is some of you that not trained, some of our eyes are not trained and can easily confuse with the leprosis with the canker symptoms. But one thing that please remember, cankers are causing this rampant, rough surfaces above the tissue that infected. So when you put your hand, especially when you close your eyes and touch it, you will feel that there is something. In leprosis, you will not feel it. That chlorosis and necrosis, it's that you cannot just feel. So that is the main difference between leprosis and other, canker-like symptoms. So you can, I think you can distinguish. Just pay a little bit more attention. Of course, a little more difficult to distinguish the symptoms of the canker and leprosis on twigs because they are really causing the scaling. So when you touch it, and if you look at it, it looks really, very similar. So it's very tough. Hence, you will need help for diagnosis. Okay. On diagnostic purposes, please do not be shy of contacting FTEX DPI, your extension agent, and most importantly, me. I'm always here to help and work with you. So, and I am able to, do some diagnostic tests in my lab, so I can help you if you need it. And again, just to summarize, this was a heads up for leprosis. We don't have in Florida, but given that the Florida's climatic conditions are highly suited for establishment of this disease, and disease that already we had in the past, it is predicted that might arrive, and if it arrives, can cause problem for our citrus production. So please, the best way to control the leprosis is preventing introduction of this virus. So please do not bring any plant material, propagation material from out of state or other countries. And if arrives, God forbid, we have some tools. The most important one, again, this is vectored virus disease, so you have to take care of the vector. Please remember, you need some help initially for diagnostic this, and I can help, okay? And with that, I just wanted to stop here and give a couple more minutes if we have Mongi for our growers to, ask questions. But before that, I have to thank my incredible team that is doing most of the work, and some of the grower and other research collaborators that is supporting most of my research here in University of Florida, and grant agencies that providing necessary financial support for me to continue to work some of the projects that I introduced. With that, I really sincerely thank your attention, and I'm happy to answer any question that you may have. And if not today, here is my contact information listed here, my email and my phone number. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any question or if you need any help. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Batuman, for an excellent presentation. If anybody has a question or a comment, please unmute yourself and speak up. By the way, hard copies of the Florida Citrus Production Guide are available at the Immokalee IFAS Center. Feel free to contact Julie Carson. They are also available at my office at the Hendry County Extension Office in La Belle. They are also available at the Citrus Research and Education Center in Lake Alfred and many extension offices.
Beautiful source, resource for us. I love this book. So I do have many copies, and Julie has, if I'm not around. You can definitely stop by. We will be happy to give you a copy of it.
And it's also available online.
Perfect.
Any question?
Mongi, I saw there was a question very early on from D. Hackett asking about, is there hope for chemical or other methods? Is immediate removal at the first sign still the right step? I hope that Dr. Batuman has answered your question, Dee, but if not, I'll give him a minute to add some more information.
Absolutely, you are definitely right, Mr. Hackett. But again, when you have 95, almost 100% of your trees are infected, sometimes just getting rid of that infected HLB infected trees is not feasible, unfortunately. And if we want to be, stay on business, we just instinctively try to, ease the symptoms of the disease and try to, stay productive as much as we can. This is the basic instinct that every grower has. In other parts of the countries where the disease not well established or still continuing to spread, it is working fantastically, removing the inoculum sources. And I'm talking about an HLB case. But of course, in other cases, removing of infected, unproductive trees definitely going to help you in the long run, just because that they are very effective in reducing the inoculum sources. So you cannot get well if the disease just lingers around you. This is the basic concept of the pathology, not only phytopathology that deals with the plant diseases, but in our pathology as well. If you have inoculum sources around you, you are not protected, and you do not become immune. You will be attacked in some way or another. So you have to get rid of the inoculum sources as much as you can. In HLB situation, as I mentioned and emphasized, I hope I emphasized enough, that your best option is still taking care of the psyllids. I'm sorry to remind you that this is, yes, and it's not easy. I know it's not easy, but the psyllids are the main drive for reduce the productivity of your tree that is already infected. So just don't think like, oh, it's infected, I cannot do anything else. Remember, citrus trees are very resilient, and it's coping very well with HLB infection. When it's not coping well is you let ACPs, psyllids coming again and putting more bacteria into the trees. That is the tree that is not coping well and giving up. So that's why I'm telling you to continue to control psyllid is, I think, more effective control strategy for HLB than anything else that you may be trying. And obviously, just controlling the ACP is not enough. That's why I emphasize on integrated pest management strategy. Integrated pest management strategy is not saying that you cannot use chemicals. Of course, you are using chemicals for other diseases and pests. And you are putting nutrition. It's a part of the integrated pest management. knowing when and how much to put the nutrition for your trees that are already with the lack of root system, healthy root system, it's a management strategy that is integrated to your HLB management strategy. So this is something that you are already doing. All you have to do is just to pay more attention when, how, and how much to take any of the strategies or control measures that you have in your disposal and use it effectively. And again, I do have many growers around us that I can proudly say that they are very effective, staying productive, and even some cases improving their production by just paying attention to timing of the control strategies and taking care of the unnecessary inoculum sources or other diseases that attacking HLB infected plants, and reducing, pushing out of the unproductive trees in their growth. So these are working, and I think you can definitely be part of that successful grower community if you pay a little more attention.
Any other question? Any comment? There is a comment in the mailbox. I want to try to keep my citrus, if for no other reason that I have tons of giant swallowtail who use my tree as a host. It's a butterfly. The larvae is what we call orange dog.
Orange dog, okay, all right.
So somebody is keeping the citrus trees for the orange dog.
Right, I'm not able to see this. I don't know why, but you already answered, I think, Mongi. Thank you very much. And again, it might sound to some of you that is not connected, but having an orange dog, having a leaf miner, having a canker, it's not that disconnected incidents, and that this is all is the one system. So when you are attacked, think of like that. You are infected with HLB equal, just the lack of better terminology, cancer. And then other small diseases that you think that is not hurting you much, but it's adding, like the flu. When you are going to chemotherapy and having a flu, I think disastrous. So this is something that I think you can pay attention to and control other plant diseases and stress factors, not only diseases, stress, any stress factors. If you are stressing your plants from the drought or over irrigation or lack of fertilization or over fertilization, these are all stress factors that you are adding up on HLB infected, already stressed trees. Okay, so please be more diligent and pay attention a little more on reducing other stress factors as much as you can.
Swallowtails, butterflies are very beautiful butterflies, but the orange dog can be really devastating. I don't like them in my backyard. The orange dog really can defoliate a young tree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, if you are interested in CEUs, please send an email to Jean McAvoy. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Dr. Batuman.
My pleasure, Mongi.
We will see you next month.
Sure. Thank you for putting this together, Mongi, again, and Julie, for everything that you do, guys. I appreciate it.
You are welcome.
Here, everybody.
The presentation will be posted on the Immokalee IFAS site. So we will let you know when it's posted if you want to review it or share it with a colleague.
And I can provide the PDF version if you would like to have a copy of it. I'll be happy to provide. Just reach out to Mongi, me, Julie, whoever you think that you can reach. Please do not hesitate. We'll be happy to provide a copy of my presentation.
Thank you all for your participation.